of all. Nice to meet you. And I appreciate all your input. It was very valuable. And I hear nothing but rave reviews about you. So where were you born?
I was born in Yakima, Washington, and that's where I grew up. My mother was really important in my coming of age. She had been she was a working woman. You know, she was born in 1913, so, you know, very different age than ours. But she had gone overseas during World War II as a Red Cross donut girl. And so, yeah, I know she's got such a great story, and I'm trying to write it too.
I understand that.
Anyway, she was really a great influence, and she let me know that women could, you know, could do lots of other things besides just being married and having children. And my father was, I'm sorry?
You have siblings?
I have 3 younger brothers. My oldest brother is gay, and we have a close relationship. He's also a writer and an organizer and an activist. So, you know, it's been really great to have sort of and plus we have, through Ancestry, we've found some other gay cousins. So we have a whole gay contingent in our family. I think it's true. You know, there are a lot of us who have gay siblings. Mm-hmm. A lot of lesbians, especially in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, you know, went through the AIDS crisis with their brothers. You know, we were terrified that our brothers were going to die. Mm-hmm. Anyway, going back to my family, my father was a concrete salesman, or he was a salesman, sold concrete. And 2 of my brothers are concrete finishers. So we were a concrete kind of family. There was some.
Did you learn trades when you were younger?
No, I didn't really, no. But, you know, he was the kind of a handyman who thought he knew how to do stuff, but really didn't, but did it anyway. And so I guess that was a good learning experience for me. I had back
until you know it, right?
Yeah. When I was 9, we moved out to a little farm. It was only 3 acres, but I had horses. I raised horses as a kid, and my brother raised poultry. We were in 4-H. 4-H was a really, really great experience for me. I learned public speaking.
Really great.
Because they have a program where you demonstrate your project. It was a really wonderful program, 4-H, and I wish that it were being promoted a little more around the country. I think it's fantastic. Well, my very first one was a cooking demonstration because, you know, girls had to do cooking and sewing. I made a potato boat. It was like a baked potato with a little sail in it. I am not kidding you. But I won the championship, and I got a free ride to 4-H camp. So that, you know, how could you beat that? I mean, then you're hooked after that, right? If you win on your first time.
Did you publish your recipe?
Maybe, I don't remember. And then after that, my horse projects, a lot of them were about safety. And we would make big visual aids, you know, big pictures that we used. We didn't actually but I did show the horse at the fairs and that kind of thing. You know, the county fair and the state fair were like big deals for us. Yeah.
Yes, I understand that. I've had friends that have exhibited at those. And so then, did you like school?
Yeah, I was a good student, but I skipped school a lot.
When did you come out to yourself, do you think, as a lesbian?
Not until much later. I think I was 27, which.
Instinctively, did you feel that there was something unusual about yourself or special?
I didn't really. I was a tomboy, and I didn't really, you know, have crushes on people. I didn't really feel particularly sexual, certainly not when I was a kid. And no, I didn't have that kind of stuff. So it took me a while to figure it out. But for me, it wasn't like figuring it out. It was more like when I became a feminist, you know, it just made total sense to be a lesbian.
Yeah.
It was more like an intellectual decision for me. I knew I could be, I guess technically you would call me bisexual, but I knew, you know, that I could be a lesbian. Like Alex Dobkin says, any woman can be a lesbian, right? I knew that. So I became a lesbian.
Okay, good. So then, did you become active as a lesbian? Did you start relationships then?
Oh, sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did. And, my thing was always work. It was always about work, even from the time I was a college student before I was a lesbian. As a straight woman, I would get up and speak about gay rights because I went to school in Pullman, Washington at Washington State University. It was a tiny place out in the middle of the wheat fields in Eastern Washington, very conservative. And gay people did not feel safe getting up and talking with good reason.
Right.
And so it seemed like straight people shouldn't be doing that, so I got involved in the gay liberation group right away.
What year was that approximately?
About 1970.
Okay. One of the reasons I asked that is we were sort of trying to put the events of our evolution in with the years. So that's good history.
Yeah, the feminist movement and the gay movement and the anti-war movement, kind of all flowered at the same time. And I was involved in all that stuff. I was very involved in the feminist movement. And, in a place like Pullman, Washington, I felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. There was a lot you could do there. And the other thing was there wasn't a big police presence there. They didn't have a lot of police. And so I never got tear gassed in all the times I demonstrated. The only time I was arrested was for drugs. I was convicted of having had a small amount of marijuana. But I didn't go to jail because they had no jail cell for women. There were some good things about being in a small.
Arrested in the right place, right?
Yeah. So of course I was active. I was very active in the feminist movement and in the gay movement when I was in college.
What was your focus? Or your major in college? Did you have one?
Journalism.
Oh, good. Huh.
Yeah, I worked for the summers at my local newspaper, the Yakima Herald Republic. And I worked on, the student newspaper. And I worked on, we had an underground newspaper then too, called the Three Forks Press. Three Forks was the name of Pullman before Mr. Pullman gave them $50 in 1894 for their 4th of July celebration. So they named the town after him.
No kidding. Like now we're talking billions of dollars before you get your name on anything, right?
I know, that's how they got the name Pullman. It was the same guy who did the Pullman cars, that he was a big industrialist.
I grew up around those Pullman cars.
Did you? In Chicago?
In Chicago, right.
Oh.
In Roseland. I lived on the south side, but the Pullman cars were right there. They were a big part of the development. Interesting. They were functional. People lived in them.
Wow. I went to that museum when I was in Chicago for the Tradeswoman conference a couple of years ago. Very interesting.
So how did you move then into the trades profession?
Well, like I said, when I became a feminist, I realized that the most important thing is being able to get a job. If you can't get a job as a woman, you cannot be independent. You have to have income. And so that's what I decided to focus on. And that's how I got involved in tradeswoman work, organizing to get women into the trades. I think we actually filed a lawsuit.
After you graduated college?
Yeah. I can't remember if we filed a lawsuit or not, but we were involved in organizing with the women who were college. Well, they wouldn't let them be professors. They were teachers. They discriminated against women in the college. And so by that time, that's how we learned about the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act is the basis of most of our lawsuits. And, it's where we get our rights in the workplace. So we didn't really get anything even until 1964.
It's interesting. Just yesterday, her interview is going online almost as we speak. In 1962, she applied for a job teaching, and she had to swear that she wasn't a lesbian. And you'll find that in her they didn't say lesbian, homosexual. But so these years are fascinating, what changed and the role that you and other women played in that is I appreciate it. It's very valuable. So what trade did you start in? Did you say from a family? And
I was in Pullman for a couple of years after I graduated, and I was doing graduate work. Mm-hmm. But I didn't finish my graduate degree. I decided to move to Seattle, which was the big city in Washington State. It's where we all went. It's where, queers always go. They always go to the big city. And I was looking around. It was a depression right then in the city. I couldn't find a job, and I got into training.
What year was that?
I moved to Seattle around 1973 or 4. Might have been 4. So I got into this training program.
Did you move by yourself? Did you move out there by yourself? Or?
No, I had a boyfriend then. We moved together, and then I ended up living in a collective house there. Mm-hmm. While I was there. I was way into collective living. I loved collective living, and in San Francisco, I lived in a collective house with women as long as I could, and then I don't know, things changed. People didn't do that so much anymore. And I was sad. I really always wanted to live collectively. And
how about now?
Now I live with my wife in a house in Santa Rosa, which seems kind of suburban. We have a backyard, You
have a dog?
No.
Cat? No cats, no dogs, no birds. Oh, well,
the birds are all outside. The birds are in the window.
Right.
Anyway, I got into a training program in Seattle that was training people for the trades. And
who sponsored that?
It was called the Opportunities Industrialization Center, and it had been started in Philadelphia by a Black preacher. But the sponsor was the federal government. It was a federal jobs program called CETA, CETA, some Comprehensive Training and Employment Act,
right?
Something like that, Employment and Training Act. Yeah, a lot of us got started that way. A lot of women, because they wouldn't let us in any other way. So that's how some of us got trained.
In the program, were you still a minority in terms of students, women?
Well, when I got in, they said, I don't know how I talked my way out of this, but they said, well, what are your skills? Do you know how to type? And I said, well, yeah, I studied typing in high school. You never should tell them you know how to type. I mean, I realized this later, but yeah. And then they said, well, you already got a skill. We're not going to train you in another skill.
Really?
I had to argue my way out of that. And and then I think somebody actually sued them eventually about that. Mm-hmm. I didn't, but they didn't want to make me an electrician.
Was that you succeeded obviously in getting past that?
Yeah.
Right.
It was like a 6-month training program, and I learned about the code. I learned some basic stuff, but it wasn't like an apprenticeship. No. I wanted to get in the apprenticeship, and I tried in Seattle, but they told me I was too old. I was 26, and their cutoff was 25 then. So I went to the Human Rights Commission and said, hey, this is age discrimination. And they said, well, that only applies to old people, not young people. They wouldn't do anything to help me.
Right.
That's when I moved to San Francisco. I started an electrical contracting business with a friend of mine from college.
Great.
That's when I started.
So has there already been any particular person or situation that sort of inspired you to you really keep growing in your field and politically also? And you say, this really was the aha moment.
We had to have networks. We had to establish networks of support systems, or we couldn't survive. And so right away, we started Tradeswoman organizations. We started one called Non-Traditional Employment for Women. And it was partly we wanted to change the world, but it was also a support network. We had to talk to each other and we had to give each other support, or it just, it was pretty horrible when we started out. It was very sexist,
Did you feel any bias because you were lesbian?
No, I don't think so. I think that actually it was helpful to be out. Now, my lover at the time, or else we got together we were organizing the first Tradeswoman conference together. So this would have been 1982. The conference happened in 80. The conference happened in 83 in Merritt College in Oakland. The very first national conference, we did it.
Huh, did you?
Yeah, some years before. But I knew that she was a carpenter and she was one of the very few. And yeah, so I know. She really thought it was important to be out on the job. And it was not easy to come out on the job then. And, we would have these arguments at our conferences where she would say, okay, this is why it's better, and for one thing, construction workers are big gossips. They want to know that they want all the details of your life, and then they're going to spread it all around. And so she said it was better to give them this information than to, keep them guessing, because it gave you power. Mm-hmm. And so she really influenced me to come out.
Okay. I can understand that. How did you do it? How did you just start saying I'm a lesbian, or this is my partner?
I know it's not always so easy, is it? Oh. I know. I'd wait for the opportune moment where they'd say, "Oh, how's your husband?" Or they'd say, They'd say, one guy said to me, he started talking shit about gay men. He said he was a traveler, meaning he was working at a job. He was from Arizona and he was working in San Francisco. He said his wife was a hospital worker, a nurse, and she was just surrounded by all these gay men, by all these faggots in a hospital in Oakland. And I said, oh, I'm one too. And, working with faggots is probably a lot more fun than working with your stupid ass. No, I didn't say it that way. I was very nice. But after that.
That's what you wanted to say.
Yeah. I think you had to find the right time to come out, but I guess that's
true. Right. That husband thing is usually a grabber. When you're dating. Then when you get older, they don't think you're dating anymore. So you must have a husband.
Well, sometimes I would tell them, if they came on to me on the job, they'd say, are you married? Do you have kids? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm married. I have 5 kids. Sometimes I would do that just to get them on my back. Mm-hmm.
So where are you at now in your practice for your work, your journalism, your tradeswoman work?
Oh, I'm trying to write our story. And Pat probably told you this, but our tradeswoman group is writing our history in chapters, sort of. We don't really know what it's going to look like, but yeah, it's a project we've been involved in. So I've been writing our history, and I'm also writing stories still. I'm trying to, it's the end of my life. I'm trying to organize everything and make sure I got it all done before I die.
Don't do that. You're very vibrant.
All of us.
It does happen. Yeah, it's out there. So will you self-publish? Do you think?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, good.
I'm putting a book together of my own stories too, but I think we might have publishers. We might have a publisher for our book.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. I would like to read it. Give me a signed copy. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I did a book I think it was about 1988, 89 that this was first published. It was called Hard-Hatted Women. It was a book with 25 stories that were mostly written by the tradeswomen themselves. Some of them were interviews that we'd done because we had a magazine called Tradeswoman Magazine that we wrote and published for about 20 years. And I was involved in that the whole time. And toward the end, I was the only one involved.
What would you like to leave as your legacy for other women?
Here's the main thing I've learned as a feminist. We changed our world. feminists changed our own world. I mean, the working conditions, the conditions I worked in over my years as an electrician, were improved because of my activism. So, you know, when that happens, when you change your own world, it's kind of hard to be a pessimist about activism. I mean, I'm just an optimist. I'm always going to be an optimist because of that. I believe that we can change the world, and we did. We have.
So for a young woman just looking for a career, do you think that lesbianism could hamper or help her? It looks like you used it as a positive link for yourself, but a lot of that's you.
You know, here's the thing. I mean, lesbians, we had to, part of the reason I was so involved in the issue of work and good jobs is that lesbians have to support ourselves. We can't depend on men. We're not depending on men to support ourselves. So work was a big issue for us. Yeah, I think that getting good jobs is super important, not just for women, but especially for lesbians. The trades pay really well still. I mean, because they're union jobs. And, you know, the system is really great for the apprenticeship system. It might take you a little while to get into the apprenticeship, but you learn your trade for free. You go to school for free, and your wage keeps increasing. And I can't tell you how much electricians make. It's more than $60 an hour in San Francisco. I don't even know how much it is, but it was a lot more than any women's job I could ever get. Still. Like 3 or 4 times more money. And that, that's, I mean, that's an incentive. That's the incentive. And the same thing goes for like public safety jobs, like cops and firefighters. And there was a big argument in San Francisco about whether women should be cops. Well, my position was, we deserve those jobs.
That's right.
And
not about whether women should do them or not. Anyone that's qualified should do them.
I hated cops as much as these lefties did too. I mean, the cops were really, what they were saying was, women in the police force is not going to change the police force. And maybe it didn't. I think it did somewhat. I think it did. But I don't care. I just want women to have access to those jobs. That's the main thing for me. And same thing with the fire department, We fought for years. I was really involved in this fight about affirmative action in San Francisco. We fought for years to get women into the fire department. And, those are really, really great jobs.
You have a very full life by the sounds of it.
I was an activist, and my issue was work and affirmative action. And we were not just involved in the women's community. We had to make coalitions with, other people in the civil rights movement. So I got to be involved with a lot of people of color, which I'm so grateful about. And the Tradeswoman movement is full of women of color, led by women of color, really. And that makes me so happy. At first, not that many women of color got in because they were being discriminated against, just as white women were. But a lot more have gotten into the trades over the years, and I'm very pleased about that.
Sounds like your footsteps have led them there.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. When we first started talking about getting into the trades, when you look at the big picture in the 70s, do you remember what did we call it? The feminization of poverty. Remember that? It was a thing, and it's still a thing. Women were, their husbands were divorcing them and getting involved with younger women. All over the country.
Changed.
And they were left with the kids and no skills.
No credit.
No credit? That's right. We didn't have credit till 1977, I think, Diane. Anyway, it was to address that issue, the feminization of poverty. And children were poorer as a result too. Anyway, we thought if we could get a whole bunch of women into the trades, these high-paying jobs, we could really affect the system. We could really affect the poverty level.
I have a question. If a woman would like to contact you as a result of seeing your video, are you open to that?
Oh, sure, of course.
Okay,
I'm always open to that. Yeah, because that's what We do. Well, here's the other thing. I worked for a while with a small contracting firm called Wonder Woman Electric, and we had a van. It had Wonder Woman painted on both sides of the van. And one side was a black woman, Wonder Woman, and on the other side was a white Wonder Woman. And people just love those. I mean, especially little black girls would come up to us and say, wow, black Wonder Woman. And they would see us working, and we would, that was one of the best advertisements.
That is, that's right. I love
people,
visuals, right?
And old women would come up to me and say, I always wanted to be a carpenter, Seriously. That was great.
So thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
I look forward to seeing your video, and I thank you. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Diane. Thanks for doing this.